The ground shuddered as plasma shells slammed into the fractured surface of the colony, each impact sending clouds of iridescent dust into the thin, sulfurous air. Lieutenant Harrow pressed himself against a shard of twisted metal that had once been part of the bridge railing, cursing his own luck and the engineers who had promised this reinforced structure. A human soldier, one of his squad, had slipped between the fractured concrete, and now half of him was trapped under the collapsed span. He banged on the metal with his rifle, trying to free himself, and yelled something that was more half-swear, half-question about gravity having a personal vendetta. From the other side of the chasm, the alien battalion advanced in crystalline armor that reflected the dying gas giant's eerie orange glow. Their movements were precise, almost elegant, like dancers choreographed to a cosmic symphony, though the occasional misstep sent a shard of rock tumbling into the abyss with a comedic clink that briefly broke the tension. Among them, one figure moved differently, less like a soldier and more like a predator who had stopped to admire the view. The alien woman with the long, sweeping ears that twitched with every shift of energy around her. Her amber eyes flicked between the chaos of the battlefield and the trapped human, her expression a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. She tilted her head, one ear flicking back and forth like a radar dish detecting interference, and muttered something under her breath that roughly translated to, "Really? Right under the bridge. Couldn't have waited 5 minutes." Her voice carried a sharp wit that made even her subordinates glance at each other with a raised brow, wondering if they should laugh or salute. The human soldiers froze when she stepped forward, her commanding presence radiating in waves that seemed to ripple across the battlefield itself. "Ceasefire," she bellowed, and for a heartbeat the world seemed to stop. Plasma fire fizzled out in midair, and distant explosions were reduced to muted thuds. Lieutenant Harrow blinked, certain he had misheard. The alien woman's ears twitched in subtle amusement as human and alien alike stared at each other, trapped in the awkward silence of halted war. One of his squad muttered something about, "Well, that's new," and another snorted, making a face like he had just tasted disappointment mixed with relief. She moved closer to the edge of the bridge, her armor catching the light in shifting fractals, each movement fluid and deliberate. Her presence was both terrifying and oddly comforting, as though she were a walking paradox, capable of annihilation, yet willing to pause for a trapped human. Harrow could hear her muttering again, and this time it sounded like, "You humans really do have a flair for dramatic misfortune," and he couldn't decide if she was criticizing him or offering moral support. The young soldier beneath the debris waved weakly. His helmet tilted at a ridiculous angle that made it look like he was giving a weary salute to the universe itself. With a graceful leap that seemed almost casual, the alien woman landed on the fractured bridge, the long tips of her ears sweeping past jagged concrete like brushes against silk. She examined the rubble, tapping a crystalline gauntlet that emitted a soft violet hum. Sparks of controlled energy lifted small debris in midair, and a human soldier whispered, "Is she magical?" Harrow didn't answer. The alien woman's humor came in sudden bursts. "You humans," she said, bending over to survey the trapped soldier, "always inventing new ways to make me regret showing mercy." Her words carried a dry lilt that made the humans snicker despite themselves. Harrow's squad cautiously edged closer. We can help," he offered, but the alien woman shook her head with a wry tilt, her long ears twitching as if they could sense sarcasm and sincerity simultaneously. No, this is an education," she said, her eyes glinting. "Consider it an impromptu demonstration on why you should stop hiding under collapsing infrastructure. Lesson 1, timing is everything. Lesson 2, don't be dramatic." The soldier beneath the rubble groaned. "I was dramatic," he admitted, "but only a little." The alien woman crouched beside him, her gauntlet emitting a violet field that hummed like a tiny star. The rubble shifted slightly, and she muttered, "And now, physics meets mercy." She levitated a chunk of concrete the size of a small vehicle, moving it aside with precision, all while shooting an aside to the human soldiers watching. Try not to faint from amazement. It's unbecoming. One of the younger soldiers laughed, earning a soft, rare smile from the alien warrior. Harrow noticed it, the corners of her mouth twitching just enough to suggest that despite her otherworldly composure, she appreciated humor. A particularly stubborn beam snapped with a metallic groan and the trapped soldier squeaked, "It's alive! It's attacking me!" The alien woman rolled her eyes, one long ear flicking impatiently. "No, it's not alive," she said. "It's just a bridge with commitment issues." The soldiers around them erupted in laughter, despite the still dangerous environment. Harrow caught himself smiling, a rare, relieving human response in the midst of war. The alien woman, with the careful elegance of a conductor directing an orchestra, lifted the final slab and gently helped the soldier free. He tumbled onto the bridge deck with a graceless, wheezing sort of relief, and the alien woman quipped, "See, you humans should have a handbook for surviving under bridges. Step 1, survive. Step 2, do not panic." The temporary ceasefire held as both sides watched, still tense, still unsure if the alien woman's decision would be respected. But she moved with authority, her long ears flicking toward the human soldiers in a gesture that was almost polite, almost teasing as she said, "Don't get used to this kindness. I have a schedule and your survival was just a minor detour." Harrow, brushing dust from his armor, thought about how absurd the situation was. A deadly alien warrior with a sense of humor, saving him, and somehow making it all feel like a cosmic joke. The trapped soldier groaned again. "I owe my life to someone with ridiculous ears," he muttered, and she pretended to be scandalized, one ear flopping forward as if to say, "Ridiculous. I'll have you know these are tactical marvels." The moment stretched, fragile and improbable, as laughter mingled with the fading echoes of the battle. Somewhere across the fractured moonscape, the distant explosions continued, but here, on this bridge of twisted metal and dust, human and alien alike had paused, if only briefly, to witness the impossible. Compassion in the midst of war, delivered with style, precision, and a biting sense of humor. The alien woman crouched beside the freed human soldier, her amber eyes narrowing as she scanned the unstable rubble. The faint hum of her crystalline gauntlet mingled with the distant echoes of collapsing structures, a symphony of destruction and oddly soothing technology. "You humans really do enjoy living dangerously," she muttered, the corners of her lips twitching with dry amusement. "I swear, if one of you falls off a cliff every week, the statistics would look like a tragicomic experiment." The soldier groaned, brushing dust from his uniform. "I swear I only make bad decisions when I'm awake," he said, voice tight with a mix of relief and embarrassment. She let out a sharp exhalation that was almost a laugh, and one of her long ears flicked forward, quivering like a tuned antenna. "That's comforting," she said. "Your honesty saves you only marginally." With deliberate care, she activated the gauntlet fully, the violet field expanding in subtle ripples that lifted smaller chunks of concrete and twisted rebar with quiet, precise force. She muttered instructions in a lilting alien tongue, and the rubble responded as if it understood her commands. Human soldiers stared, mouths agape, half in disbelief, half in awe. One of them whispered, "Is she talking to the rocks?" Harrow snorted. "If anyone can, she probably can," he said, the humor easing the lingering tension. The trapped soldier tried to get up too quickly and ended up tangling himself in a dangling cable that vibrated with energy, humming in a way that sounded like an annoyed electric cat. "Help!" he yelled, flailing uselessly. The alien woman leaned down, one ear brushing against the oscillating cable, and muttered, "Lesson 3. Never underestimate the sentience of poorly maintained infrastructure." With a flick of her wrist, the violet field lifted the cable and she nudged the soldier upright. "See, you're free again. I call it and progress with style." He shook his head, still dazed. "Progress with style. That's terrifyingly accurate," he muttered, trying to brush debris off his boots. Around them, the battlefield had transformed into a bizarre tableau of paused war. Aliens in crystalline armor hovered in place, weapons lowered but eyes alert, while humans cautiously adjusted their positions, unsure if the ceasefire was a bluff or an act of divine intervention. The alien woman, with a soft, sardonic sigh, rose to her full height and surveyed the scene. "You realize," she said, addressing no one in particular, "that both sides are about to develop a collective anxiety disorder from staring at me. Relax, I'm not going to shoot anyone right now, mostly because it's awkward to explain to my superiors why I paused a battle for a human with tragic luck." Her ears twitched conspiratorially, and a nearby human whispered to Harrow, "She's funny." Harrow raised an eyebrow. That's her style, deadly but with sarcasm. The alien woman turned her attention to the remaining debris, gently lifting heavy fragments as if she were arranging an elaborate sculpture. "Physics is such a drama queen," she said, and one of the humans snorted despite himself. "You speak to rocks?" he asked, incredulous. She arched an eyebrow, one ear flicking to the side. "I have to. They're stubborn and melodramatic." The trapped soldier, still trying to catch his breath, laughed weakly. "You're like some intergalactic babysitter." She considered this, then shook her head, the long tips of her ears swaying. "Babysitter implies patience. I have strategic tolerance. There's a difference." A sharp groan came from a particularly jagged beam that had been pinned precariously across the rubble. The soldier winced. "It's going to fall." The alien woman raised a hand and the beam hovered midair, shivering slightly in defiance. "Lesson 4. Even gravity negotiates better with me than with your species," she quipped. The soldier blinked. "I don't know if I should be impressed or terrified," he admitted. She crouched beside him, her ears brushing against his shoulder in a gesture that felt both alien and oddly human. Impress and be terrified simultaneously. It's a very effective technique. Time stretched as she orchestrated the rescue. Each movement was precise, each quip perfectly timed, and the trapped soldier found himself genuinely laughing despite the near-apocalyptic setting. "You know," he said, "if the universe ends tomorrow, at least I'll have a hilarious death story." The alien woman looked at him with an expression that was almost fond. "You survive tomorrow, and when it ends, blame something else. Preferably your own bad planning." Her words carried a subtle warmth, the kind that hinted at an understanding of mortality and absurdity at once. When the last fragment of concrete was lifted, the soldier scrambled to his feet, brushing himself off as if he just survived a particularly theatrical obstacle course. "Okay," he said, exhaling sharply, "I owe you something, coffee maybe." The alien woman's lips quirked, one ear twitching. "I don't drink coffee," she said, "but the offer is amusing." Harrow and the others exchanged glances, realizing that humor had become a tool here as much as any weapon, a bridge across species and battle lines. The alien woman moved back, allowing the soldier room to recover. "Don't get used to this level of courtesy," she said, voice light but firm. "I have other battles to conduct, and bureaucracy doesn't approve of unscheduled heroics." The soldier tried to nod solemnly but ended up tripping over a loose slab, earning a soft sigh from her and another teasing remark about humans and their commitment to slapstick. Despite the tension, the humans couldn't help but laugh, the absurdity of war softened just enough by the alien's wit to make survival feel like something almost achievable. Finally, she signaled to her battalion. The aliens resumed formation, weapons raised but still mindful of the fragile ceasefire she had imposed. She cast a glance back at the human soldiers, her amber eyes gleaming with a mix of irony and respect. "Consider yourselves warned," she said. "Chaos is my default, mercy is conditional, and humor is mandatory if you want to survive me." The trapped soldier chuckled, rubbing his ribs. "I think I can handle that," he said, wincing. She tilted her head, one ear brushing against the wind, and a rare, almost imperceptible smile curved her lips. As the temporary pause settled over the battlefield, a new rhythm emerged. Humans and aliens, adversaries by circumstance, caught in the shared absurdity of survival, laughter, and unexpected compassion. The alien woman's long ears twitched with subtle amusement as she prepared to move forward, her mind already calculating the next steps, the next obstacles, and the next opportunities to remind everyone that even in war, wit, intelligence, and a touch of audacity could save more lives than the sharpest blade or the heaviest weapon. The alien woman stood on the fractured bridge, her long ears swaying lazily as the winds from the crumbling moonscape tugged at her armor. The human soldier she had rescued hovered nervously nearby, still brushing dust from his uniform, though this time with a tentative, cautious reverence. Around them, the battlefield hummed with the low resonance of alien energy shields and the distant rumble of shifting debris, but the immediate chaos had softened into a tense stillness. Harrow and his squad watched, uncertain whether this fragile ceasefire would hold, yet unwilling to interrupt the unspoken understanding forming in the space between adversaries. The alien woman turned her amber eyes toward the human officer, her expression as sharp and precise as her movements had always been, but softened at the edges by a hint of something uncharacteristically human: contemplation. "We are leaving," she said, her voice firm yet tinged with amusement, one long ear flicking sideways as if measuring the officer's reaction. "You have your wounded, your rubble, your shattered egos. We have ours. Let's not pretend diplomacy will survive without a little theatrics." Harrow swallowed and stepped forward. "Will the ceasefire last?" he asked cautiously. She arched an eyebrow. "It will last as long as someone doesn't trip over it," she replied, and the faint smirk tugging at the corners of her lips made even hardened soldiers snicker. The rescued soldier, still wobbling from his earlier near-death theatrics, shuffled closer, attempting to find words that wouldn't sound absurd. Thank you," he said. "For saving me, I mean. And all this," he gestured vaguely at the surreal tableau of rubble and halted war. The alien woman's ears flicked forward, quivering with mild amusement. "Consider it a professional courtesy," she said. "Though technically, your species owes me at least 3 headaches and a sarcastic remark." The soldier attempted a weak joke. "I can provide both." She paused, tilted her head, and a delicate, almost playful smile appeared. "I accept the first. The second is mandatory." As they prepared to move, the alien woman took the time to inspect the surroundings, using her crystalline gauntlet to stabilize precarious debris and redirect stray energy surges that still crackled across the battlefield. "Lesson 5, she said, muttering to the humans, "never assume the battlefield has read your strategic manual. It's capricious and enjoys improvisation." One of Harrow's soldiers laughed, elbowing a comrade. "She's teaching us." Mid-battle. Another shrugged, eyes wide. Apparently, survival comes with a side of sarcasm. The soldier she had saved, who had initially been terrified of alien presence, began to notice subtle changes in himself as they worked side by side. He had feared the alien woman as a monster, a superior predator, a being incapable of mercy. Now he realized that her intelligence, precision, and unorthodox humor were not weapons alone, but extensions of her sense of honor. He found himself listening to her guidance, absorbing her strategies not just out of necessity, but because they made sense, even when delivered with quips about human incompetence. Somewhere between levitating beams of debris and the occasional deadpan observation about the universe's ironic sense of timing, he felt a measure of trust that he hadn't thought possible with an enemy soldier or alien warrior. Finally, after ensuring that the collapsed bridge no longer posed an immediate threat, the alien woman turned to Harrow and his team. "You will retreat in an orderly fashion," she said. "Do not misstep, do not drop your weapons unnecessarily, and for the love of interstellar sanity, avoid heroic stunts. We have already had one human almost become an unintended monument." She gestured toward the rescued soldier, who waved weakly in acknowledgement. Harrow's squad moved with a newfound awareness of the precision and decorum that she commanded, and even in their human stubbornness, They felt oddly aligned with her sense of tactical humor. The alien woman's eyes lingered on the soldier she had saved. "Do not mistake this for personal sentiment," she said, her voice formal but carrying the faintest warmth. "It is a recognition of potential. Yours. Surviving under rubble is the first and arguably most critical step toward earning my approval." The soldier laughed nervously. "Approval, that's a weird reward." She quirked one ear. "War is full of odd rewards. You survived, you lived. That is reward enough, but congratulations anyway." As the human forces began to withdraw, the alien woman activated a secondary stabilization field, subtly reinforcing the surrounding terrain to prevent further collapses. She observed, almost whimsically, as both human and alien soldiers navigated the treacherous ground with care, and she allowed herself a quiet reflection that even in war, moments of clarity, compassion, and absurd humor could emerge, creating bonds and shaping perspectives in ways that no battle plan could predict. The rescued soldier, watching her work, felt a shift in himself. Fear had been replaced by cautious respect, despair replaced by an odd sense of camaraderie. The alien woman stepped onto a small outcropping of fractured rock and surveyed the horizon. Her ears flicked, catching the distant rumble of alien reinforcements and the faint echoes of human engines powering retreat. "This bridge," she muttered, "will remain a testament. Not to victory, not to loss, but to the absurdity that makes life worth surviving." The rescued soldier approached her, quieter now, his voice reflecting a new confidence. "I think I understand now. You're not just a warrior. You're different, and you taught me something. Even in the worst chaos, a little intelligence and humor can make the impossible manageable." The alien woman regarded him silently for a moment, a rare pause that felt almost contemplative. Then one corner of her lips twitched upward in acknowledgement. "Perhaps, or perhaps you are simply the exception that allows me to maintain my fragile optimism about your species." Her long ears quivered, catching the faint dust and light in a whimsical dance, and the soldier could not help